I found it deeply offensive. I'm angry, actually. I'm angry.
That is Zachary Quinto, not some random YouTuber, not a fired writer with a grudge. That is the man who played Spock, the man who stepped into Leonard Nimoy's shoes and somehow made it work. And he is done being polite about what happened to Star Trek. According to multiple sources, Quinto has privately and now publicly made his position clear. The people running this franchise made us all look like fools, and he is not the only one saying it. Let's talk about why that word matters. Fools. He didn't say they disappointed us. He didn't say they let us down. He said, they made us look like fools. That is a completely different accusation. That means the actors who attach their names, their faces, their careers to this franchise now feel embarrassed by it. Not frustrated. Embarrassed. Think about how bad things have to get for an A-list actor to publicly admit that a franchise he starred in makes him feel humiliated. Here's what pushed Quinto over the edge: Starfleet Academy, the show that was supposed to be Star Trek's future. Sources say Quinto watched the first few episodes and was physically disgusted. Not bored, not unimpressed, disgusted. He reportedly told people close to him that it felt like a parody. Like someone who had never watched a single episode of Star Trek was handed the keys and told to make it relevant for teenagers. And instead of studying what made Trek work for 60 years, they just slapped a Starfleet badge on a CW drama and called it progress. But here's the savage part. Quinto wasn't just angry about Starfleet Academy. He was angry because Starfleet Academy is what survived. Strange New Worlds, the one show fans actually loved, gutted to 6 episodes for its final season, the Kirk spin-off that could have been something special, dead on arrival. But Starfleet Academy, the show that nobody asked for and nobody watched, that's the one Paramount protected. That's the one that got renewed before the first season even finished airing. Quinto reportedly looked at that math and said, "It tells you exactly what these people value, and it's not Star Trek." Now let me give you the detail that changes everything about this story. Sources say Quinto didn't just pop off on social media. He made phone calls, multiple phone calls, to Patrick Stewart, to the Kelvin cast, to people at Paramount he still has relationships with, and the message was the same every time. How did we let this happen? Think about that call list for a second. This isn't one actor venting. This is Spock calling Picard and saying, "We have a problem." This is the man who carried the reboot trilogy, picking up the phone and building a coalition of people who are done watching in silence. Sources say Stewart's response was immediate and direct. He agreed completely. He'd been saying the same things privately for years, but felt contractually handcuffed because of his Picard deal. Now that Picard is over, that handcuff is off. And he reportedly told Quinto he would support any public statement the group decided to make. Here's where Quinto's situation gets personal in a way that most people don't understand. This man didn't just act in Star Trek, he carried a dead man's legacy. Leonard Nimoy handpicked Quinto. Nimoy mentored him. Nimoy trusted him with the character that defined his entire life. There are interviews where Nimoy talks about Quinto with genuine pride, like a father watching his son carry on the family name. So when Quinto watches Starfleet Academy turn Star Trek into a lecture hall with warp drives, he's not just offended as an actor. He's offended on behalf of a man who can't speak for himself anymore. Sources say Quinto told someone close to him that Leonard would be devastated. Not angry. Devastated. Because Nimoy believed Star Trek could be progressive and brilliant at the same time. He proved it for 50 years. And the current regime threw that proof in the garbage and replaced it with something that is neither progressive nor brilliant. Just loud. Let's talk about the Kelvin cast for a minute because this part of the story is absolutely brutal. Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto, Zoe Saldana, Carl Urban, John Cho, Simon Pegg. These are not minor actors. Pine leads major franchises. Saldana is in the 2 highest grossing films of all time. Urban was in one of the biggest shows on streaming. These people have options. They don't need Star Trek. And that's exactly Paramount's problem. Sources say the Kelvin cast was offered the chance to return for a new Star Trek film at least twice in the past 3 years. Both times, the sticking point wasn't money. It was creative. Pine reportedly read one treatment and passed within 24 hours. Quinto asked who would be producing, and when he heard Kurtzman's name was still attached, he declined the meeting entirely. Didn't even read the material, just heard the name and said no. You know how bad your franchise has to be managed for actors to turn down a major studio sequel without even reading the script? That's not a negotiation tactic. That's revulsion. And then there's the money angle. Because this is Hollywood, it always comes back to money. The Kelvin films made over $1 billion combined at the box office. $1 billion. Paramount was sitting on a proven cast with a proven audience and a proven box office track record. And they couldn't get a fourth film made in over a decade because the people running the franchise kept poisoning the well. Every time a new Kelvin film got close to greenlight, something went wrong. Script problems, budget fights, creative disagreements about tone. Sources say the real problem was always the same. Kurtzman's team wanted the new film to align with the aesthetic and messaging of Discovery and Picard. The Kelvin cast wanted it to feel like their films. Those two visions are completely incompatible. And since Kurtzman controlled the franchise, his vision won every time, until the cast stopped showing up. $1 billion in proven box office, and they let it rot because one producer's ego wouldn't bend. That's not mismanagement. That's arson. Look, if you've made it this far into the video, you clearly care about this franchise as much as I do. I'm covering every part of this story as it unfolds. Subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Because what Quinto is doing behind the scenes right now is going to change everything. Now here's what the competitor channels won't tell you. Quinto's comments aren't just about the past, they're about right now. Sources say he is actively involved in conversations about what Star Trek should become next. Not as a producer, not as a showrunner, as a voice. Someone who Skydance and the new Paramount regime are reportedly listening to because they understand something the previous leadership never did. The actors who played these characters understand them better than any executive ever will. Quinto reportedly told Skydance that Star Trek doesn't need a reboot. It doesn't need a gritty reimagining. It doesn't need to be relevant, it needs to be good. Make it good, and it becomes relevant automatically. Make it preachy, and you lose everyone, including the people you think you're speaking for. That is the most important thing anyone has said about Star Trek in a decade, and it came from the guy who played the most logical character in science fiction history. So where does this leave the franchise? Kurtzman is frozen out. The legends are organized. The Kelvin cast is disgusted. The fans have been vindicated. And the new regime at Paramount is reportedly doing something that hasn't happened since 2016. Listening. Quinto made us look like fools isn't just a quote. It's a timestamp. It marks the exact moment when the last major Star Trek actor who was still being diplomatic stopped being diplomatic. When the man who carried Nimoy's legacy decided that silence was no longer respect. It was complicity. And here's the part that should terrify Paramount. Quinto isn't just talking. Sources say he's put specific conditions on ever returning to Star Trek. Not salary demands. Creative conditions. He reportedly wants a completely new writing team. He wants zero involvement from anyone connected to the Kurtzman era. And he wants script approval for any project that uses the Spock character. Not consultation. Approval. An actor demanding script approval over a studio's own franchise character. That's unheard of. That tells you the level of distrust. Quinto doesn't trust Paramount to protect the character he spent years building. He doesn't trust them to protect Nimoy's legacy. So he wants the power to say no before a single word gets filmed. And sources say he'll walk permanently if they don't agree. Pine reportedly has a similar list. No Kurtzman. New creative team. A story that actually justifies bringing the crew back together instead of just cashing in on nostalgia. One source described the Kelvin cast's collective position as simple. We'll come back for Star Trek. We won't come back for whatever this has been. The woke era of Star Trek didn't just fail commercially, it failed the people who gave their careers to the franchise. It failed Leonard Nimoy's memory. It failed Gene Roddenberry's vision. And it failed an audience that never stopped loving Star Trek. They just stopped recognizing it. Zachary Quinto is angry. Patrick Stewart is angry. William Shatner is angry. The Kelvin cast won't return phone calls. And somewhere in a Paramount office, the man responsible for all of it has nothing to report. The franchise that taught the world to look up at the stars spent 9 years telling its audience to sit down and listen. The audience left. The actors followed. And now, finally, the people who destroyed it are being shown the door. Star Trek will come back. It always comes back. But this time, it's coming back angry. And that might be exactly what it needs.